How are you doing today? I'm so excited to be here, and I'm excited to be a part of this. And, I wanted to express just a sentiment really quick as far as the value of this conversation. So many of you guys have tried Carnivore. Many people have tried to implement this to find health and find ways to improve their lives. And for me personally, I have a YouTube channel because I talk about, similar to those ladies there, that I talk about life hacks, human optimization, and things that just help us improve our lives. And Carnivore, for me, has been a godsend. It has helped me in so many different ways. So I know it's helped many of you out there. With that said, I know it's also not something that is as straightforward for everybody. Not everybody gets the exact same results. My sister is one of those people, where she has to try a couple different things. So something I try to do with my platform is bring on opposing views. You'll see a couple of the guests that I've had on, Dr. Ovadia, Dr. Sean Baker, talking with vegan and plant-based doctors about opposing views. And the point is to understand truth and get to the reality of what's going on. So the point of this panel here is to bring that information about and to make sure that we do, answer the questions for anybody out there who's struggling, who is trying to find a better way of life and living. So that's really the goal of this, is to not be dogmatic and make sure that we help everybody out there, as many as we can, who is struggling but also wants to find answers. So I'm very excited to be a part of that. Now, quickly, I also wanted to kind of mention the rules of engagement here. So this will be really fun. As we mentioned, I am going to be the moderator here. We have our guests, and what we're going to do is basically make sure that everybody has enough time to ask questions. So basically, come up onto the stage here or in front of the stage and ask your question with a mic. Please do your best to keep it to about 15, 20 seconds, right? So we want to make sure that everybody has enough time. When you're asking the questions, also please just make sure that you're asking it as general as possible, like not as specific, right? We want to help as many people as we possibly can. So just recognize that you're speaking kind of to a greater audience here as well. And then, obviously, none of these panelists are going to offer you specific medical advice, right? This is, they don't have your health profile. They don't know that. So we understand this is just best practices for what they've seen work in their clinics and what they're doing in their health overall with their clients. So as far as we understand that, I think we can all kind of, understand the rules here. Now, if I interrupt any of you and you are asking a question, please don't take that personally. Especially, if I make sure to interrupt any of the panelists as well. That's not what I'm doing. I just want to keep it going. So we're going to get going pretty quickly here. Without any further ado, I want to introduce our panelists. If you guys want to come out here today.
Hey guys, my name is Judy Cho, and I'm also known as Nutrition with Judy. So we all hear the rainbows and unicorn healing stories of a carnivore diet online. I think I have one of those unicorn healing stories, but not everyone has those healing stories. And so this panel really is for you to ask your questions, to troubleshoot. I personally think from my research as a nutritionist that meat is the most bioavailable, meaning that the nutrients are the most easily absorbable for our body and the most nutrient dense, meaning that every bite you take is the most nutrient dense, or that gram for gram is the most nutrients per bite. So that all said, then maybe it's not that the carnivore diet is wrong for certain people, but that maybe we need to troubleshoot just a little bit. And so this panel is truly for us to serve you as practitioners, to give you answers. And you could also share your triumphs, because it's also triumphs. But it's to just ask, well, what happens when it doesn't work perfectly? Because truly this diet is so amazing. It's just you may have to just dial it in a little bit. So don't give up, have hope, and just please ask your questions, because we are here to serve you. Welcome to the panel.
All right, everybody, thank you so much. Will we bring our first question to the mic right there? Please go ahead and line up with any questions you might have of problems that you're facing with a carnivore lifestyle.
I would just like to ask a question for those of us who do not have a gallbladder, what you've had to do to adjust starting carnivore with that.
And quickly, before we answer that question, I skipped over this part. This is probably one of the more important parts. I would love to, as we address that, I want to have our panelists introduce themselves and exactly what their role is in health. If we want to start first with you, Dr. Ovadia, that would be great, and then we'll go down the line.
Thank you. So Dr. Philip Ovadia, I am a cardiac surgeon and now hard at work to keep people off my operating table and certainly integrate carnivore diet as one of the tools that we use to do so.
Thank you. Danny, I would love to hear from you.
I'm Danny Conway. I've been in the keto low-carb space since 2007, carnivore since around 2012, and I help my clients really root cause rebalancing from hormone issues, digestive issues, and approaching the whole diet piece without a one-size-fits-all, so one size does not fit all, and I'm very passionate about that.
I kind of just introduced myself. So I have a private practice, and we focus on using a carnivore diet as an elimination diet for healing, and then we look into other levers, including environment, including anything that will get you to root cause healing. So we have a full-time private practice. It's kind of why I'm not on social media as much, but we try to get people individually to root cause healing.
I'm Dr. Lisa Wiedemann. I'm an optometric physician for over 32 years. I found carnivore 15 years ago. I feel like I'm one of the OG carnivore people. And for me, aside from root cause healing for my patients as far as eye issues, which is very profound, I also feel really strongly about overcoming food addiction, processed food, sugar addiction for many who are struggling. This has been a life changer for me, so that's one of my passions in my coaching, is to help people who keep falling in the carb ditch, as I call it.
My name is Sean Baker. I mostly just kind of make fun of vegans and stuff like that. I'm a orthopedic surgeon by training. I'm the chief medical officer and co-founder of Rivero Health, where we are, a digital health company, all 50 states, where our mission is to basically, get people off drugs using nutrition, lifestyle, and all those various things that we think are so important. So thanks for being here, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Okay, so clearly we have quite a spread here of experts in their field. So anyways, let's get back to the wonderful question that you had. Please, ma'am, if you could restate that would be wonderful, and then the right person to answer. We'll address potentially one more after that, depending on how much time we have.
I sat down because I didn't have any follow-up. It was just for how to work on adjusting to carnivore, and maybe particularly a high-fat version of carnivore if you don't have a gallbladder.
Sean, you want to take this?
Yeah. So one, the chronicity of what you're dealing with. If you've had your gallbladder out for many, many years, what we do see is actually the duct, which connects from the liver to the duodenum, actually widens, and so you actually get a reservoir. We see that on CT scans and MRIs, where actually that canal actually opens up a little bit. So you do still have a lot of bile that can be released in response to something called cholecystokinin. CCK is the hormone that is released in the stomach when fat hits there, and it causes normally the gallbladder to contract, but it also causes what's called the sphincter of Oddi to open up into the duodenum, so you get that bile that falls in there. But the amount still may be a little bit reduced, and so I think in the transition period, you just have to be mindful of how much fat you're consuming at one particular frequency, like how much per meal. That's often something you have to kind of be mindful of, and the types of fat can be different. You think about, when I eat a big, you guys see me eating those big fatty steaks, it's still intact. It's still bound to the protein matrix, and that has a very different physiological response, because you think about our stomach has to spend 3 or 4 hours breaking it down, turning it into liquid. Slowly it secretes that liquid into the first part of the intestine, and then it's slowly absorbed. When you have a bunch of rendered fat, big sticks of butter, lots of bacon grease, hamburger grease, that's already liquefied. The stomach really has nothing to do to it, so you get a larger relative bolus that goes into that duodenum, and you can overwhelm your capacity to absorb, and then you end up with bloating, gas, reflux, diarrhea, things like that. So I think you just really have to be mindful of how much and what type of fat you're consuming initially, because the fat is still very important, particularly if you're not eating carbs, you got to get energy from somewhere, and protein's not a particularly good source. So it's just dosing the fat, smaller doses, and being mindful of rendered versus whole intact fat. That's the biggest thing I see for most people. I think adding ox bile and things like that may or may not be effective, and a lot of people it's actually counterproductive. The pancreatic enzymes like lipases and stuff like that might be of benefit, but really I think most of the gains are just being mindful of the volume of fat and the type of fat.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If we could have our next question, please.
Hi, my question is about electrolytes. I've been keto/carnivore for the better part of 4 years. I still have to supplement with potassium every day, or I get heart palpitations, and I have to supplement with magnesium every day, or I get severe cramps. I'm wondering, should this eventually equilibrate? What is going on with my body?
Would you like to answer that one? Okay.
Yeah, so I think that typically I do see it equilibrate over time, and the need for the electrolyte supplements become less. And, I think just general things like salting your food. It's interesting, I think there is a distinction when you're going from keto to carnivore on this front. And I've noticed, again, even though you might not be eating a lot of carbohydrate on keto, still eating some of the carbohydrate seems to affect electrolyte balances. So, you might want to try going to sort of the strict carnivore for a little while, and then gradually backing off of these things.
I've tried that. I still have the palpitations.
And, so specifically for heart palpitations, you're then probably going to want to look at, are there other factors contributing to that?
I've been totally worked up by a cardiologist.
What kind of cardiologist have you been worked up by? But yeah, we run into this, and so a big, obviously focus of my practice, I end up working with a lot of people that have things like atrial fibrillation. Sometimes they have more benign palpitations or more infrequent palpitations, and you really want to start to look at what are some of the things that are triggering this. What outside of your diet might be triggering it? Are there other environmental factors? Are there other things, other toxicities that you've been exposed to that might be contributing to things like heavy metal, mold, chronic low-grade viral infections? All of these things can play a role. My guess is at this point, your body does a very good job of regulating our electrolytes. And even if you started with a severe deficiency, after 4 years of supplementing, unless there's some other issue, your body should be sort of caught up. So it's something that you got to continue to tinker with. Like I think everything we talk about, you really got to be thinking about root cause and what else is going on, and not just accept the answer of, well, we can't find anything wrong. We've done the complete workup and we can't find anything wrong. The so-called idiopathic things we always talking about. And, you've probably heard many of us say, idiopathic usually means your doctor is an idiot and can't figure out what's going on.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I like to be really tactical. I totally agree with everything Dr. Ovadia is saying. What I would do tactically is you can run your antidiuretic hormone. It's the ADH. You could go to LabCorp Quest. It's a blood marker. It's not even that expensive. Or you could check vasopressin. So if you are not able to balance your electrolytes, if that marker is imbalanced, it's a hormone thing from your pituitary, and that often gets imbalanced with mold illness. So if you're home, let's say there's like water damage, you're not seeing it, it will absolutely affect that. And the reason why a low carb diet shows the imbalances of electrolytes is you don't have carbs that are filling you with extra water that you don't know you have an electrolyte imbalance. So if you're eating carbs, you're full and retaining water, so you don't notice that you're low in magnesium or potassium, but you actually may still be low. It's just hidden. Whereas when you eat a carnivore diet, now you have less noise, and then you start seeing the things that are not working as efficiently. So I would say don't give up. Look into that marker, and then just look at, there's other factors. Dr. Ovadia is totally right. in 4 years, like I don't really take electrolytes. I've been eating meat-based for almost 7 years, and I don't really need to do it unless I'm like sweating a bunch.
Yeah.
So, but I do use salt, so just something to consider.
Thank you. And I will say
Thank you.
my sister has found a lot of success from looking at mold toxicity, metal toxicity. So absolutely would look into all of that. Thank you. Can we have our next question,
Thank you.
please? Thank you.
Hello. I typically think of carnivore as a beef-heavy diet. It's just me personally. I know we all have our own view of that. But is there any data, even if it's observational data in your practices, that compares like someone who does primarily beef compared to poultry or seafood or pork, and maybe what health differences or benefits there might be between the different types of carnivore?
Go ahead, Danny.
I tend to see a lot of success with clients when they're using a variety. So I have clients do beef only if they need to do that much of an elimination, but especially when they're coming off of a variety of other foods, just giving them a variety of meats to eat and work with and use that to be able to have variety in the meats that they're eating as well as the dishes that they're making. And I find that I also like to have them having a variety of nutrients from the different meats. So I do find that clients do benefit from that type of variety with various meats. Now, if they have histamine issues or other things that they're unable to eat chicken or pork or whatever, obviously all of that needs to be taken into consideration. So that's where the one size does not fit all comes in. But I definitely see a lot of clients that do really well with a lot of variety if they're able to tolerate a variety of meats.
Lisa, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I find that the easiest way to acclimate to this is find the meat you love and enjoy, and don't overthink it. Don't think, oh my gosh, I need more this, I didn't have enough that. Don't overthink things. Find the meat that you like, you can afford, and you enjoy. The most nutrient dense being the ruminant meats, and maybe just using other meats as sort of variety.
Thank you both. Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Hi, I've been doing carnivore for about 18 months, kind of inconsistently, maybe that's the issue, but I've lost about 70 pounds, but lost a lot of hair, thank you. Danny, you're like my hair idol. I need my hair to look like that again, so I don't know how to fix that. I think it's growing in thicker, but if I need to add something or...
So loss of hair loss, or
Right.
loss of hair would be the question, why that's
Right.
happening? Okay. Actually, I was gonna say,
Should I get that question?
who should it be? I was
answer
gonna
that
say
one?
Danny. Let's go there.
So hair loss, there's a multitude of things that can cause that. So first, with clients, I want to make sure that they're eating enough protein on a daily basis and enough fat, so eating enough overall. I get a lot of undereaters, as I think Judy does as well. So just making sure you're getting enough on a daily basis, and it's not just like, oh, 1 meal a day here, 2 meals a day there. Tracking can be helpful in many cases. And then beyond that would be like mineral deficiencies, thyroid imbalances, hormone imbalances, and then all, that comes back to leaky gut and looking for root causes of what's really going on. If you are eating enough protein and enough overall and enough fat, why is your body not absorbing those nutrients? Why is your body wanting to, lose the hair, so to speak? You've got to find the further reason why that's happening if it's not food related.
Or also consider just the fact that any dramatic change in a diet, without anything detrimental going on, but a dramatic change in your diet can cause that, and it will just rectify itself.
Okay. There has to be one negative, right?
Yeah. And I will say, before I started carnivore, I had a severe eating disorder and lost a lot of hair. So not to say that you do it all, that's not what I'm saying, but I was nutrient deficient in a lot of different ways and wasn't getting minerals and vitamins. So that was a huge game changer for me. So definitely echo what they're saying. Thank you. Next question, please.
So I've been carnivore about 16 months, and I've healed like 7 autoimmune diseases, and the 8th one is almost healed. Lost a lot of weight, and thank you. I even completely reversed my bipolar disorder. But my question is, I'm still having some issues with my gut. it started with I was getting really severe diarrhea, and then I discovered that my thyroid was really bad shape. But I've got that under control now with mineral supplements. And the last tests, everything was normal, but I'm still having a lot of loose stool and sometimes full-on diarrhea on a daily basis, pretty much. So I'm just wondering. And I'm pure carnivore, like I don't normally cheat. I have discovered that if I drink a couple glasses of kefir a day, or kefir, that seems to solve it, but as soon as I stop drinking it, it comes back. So.
Thank you. I'm thinking Judy or Danny, if either of you guys want to tackle that one.
So I would start looking at what might be really the root cause of that. So gut pathogens, mold, anything that you could have been exposed to toxicity-wise. Because a lot of times once you've kind of cleaned up the diet, you've had so much success so far with all of the autoimmune things that you've mentioned. It sounds like there's something going on gut-wise that might just be a little bit underneath that, that surface that should be addressed for sure.
Well, I know I used to get really severe cramps, and I had some of the symptoms of leaky gut, although I was never officially diagnosed. So could that be kind of what's behind it?
So it definitely can be. I always will say leaky gut is not, there's always a root cause to the leaky gut, and I think that that's a misnomer out there in a sense, because a lot of people say, oh, I just want to heal my leaky gut, which is great, but there's usually something that's causing that. You have to find that cause, and then you can truly heal the leaky gut.
Since I don't know your full history, the way that we would do it in our practice, assuming that you just started carnivore, would be like if we were troubleshooting, I would have you do a food and mood journal and figure out why don't we go down to just ruminant meats. I don't know if you didn't clarify that, but if you were to just start with ruminant meats, does that impact your loose stools? How often? Is it like right after a meal? Is it after you take supplements? Is it that you're taking that kefir and then how is your stool after that? Is it solid? Does it brown, and does it sink? And then beyond that, then if you're still having loose stools even with ruminant, then it's probably not just the diet. And then you can also consider like timing of food. So are you eating higher fat? Are you eating lower fat? Have you tried digestive enzymes? Have you done all of those other, the gut supplements? And then beyond that, if it's not working, I would do a stool test. A stool test will often, it doesn't cover everything, but it can show like if you have a parasite, if you have imbalance of your microbiome. But if you've been doing carnivore for 15 months and you have loose stools, it's time to look deeper, because by 15 months you absolutely should not be having loose stools unless you eat like super high fat and you're not used to that, and then the gallbladder and liver are not producing enough bile. But I think it's time to look more. And then, so look into the food and mood journal, possibly do some testing. And then, as Danny also said, I don't want to keep bringing it back to mold, but environment can cause loose stools, but so can stress, right? So if you're overly producing cortisol because you're highly stressed out, you're not sleeping well, those things also can just cause a hormonal imbalance, which will then cause more loose stools. Food and mood journal, tracking mood, energy, sleep, all of that will probably be your best indicator to figure out what is triggering the loose stools. And then loose stools are very different. So is it like slushy, or is it like little bits, So all of that really makes a difference. So I would be highly, and then try different macro levels too, and then figure out from there where to go next.
Okay, thank you.
Stool definitely tells the truth, that's for sure. All right, thank you. Our next guest, please, and question.
Yes, I've been on the carnivore diet for about 16 months. I've lost about 80 pounds. I've gotten rid of gout. I was on Humira, methotrexate, was able to get off of both of those. I still have a little bit of psoriasis in one knee, and I keep seeing everybody online how quick that they get rid of this stuff. Well, mine is pretty much taken care of, but I've just got a few spots. And I was just curious as the input as to what what direction I could possibly go.
Sean, I feel like this could be something that you've seen quite a bit.
Yeah, well, first of all, congratulations on getting off all that stuff. That's some of those meds can be very problematic and expensive, which is great to see. Obviously autoimmune diseases, as the gentleman before just mentioned, he had 7. We often see autoimmune diseases run concurrently, and likely there is a gut-based etiology. So if you have a compromised gut and you have one autoimmune disease, you're likely to have 2 and 3 and 4 and so on and so forth. And I think that, diet is one of the issues. I mean, clearly, I don't think you can, I don't care, we can do all the biohacking we want if we're still poisoning ourselves every day with our food. It's kind of a waste of time. So you've kind of figured out, maybe from a dietary standpoint, what generally works. And, obviously without knowing everything you eat, because some people have different versions of carnivore, dairy products, spices, things like that. So it could be a variable of that. But I think I would also start to look into the other issues like Judy and some of the others alluded to. A flare-up, a gut flare-up, IBS, psoriasis may be related to non-dietary things, lack of sleep, a cold, stress, things of that nature. So, I would just dial in the rest of the lifestyle factors as much as possible. One of the hardest ones for me to dial in personally was making sure I was disciplined about my sleep. And that's something that many of us, just due to the modern environment of looking at our phones and being up late. And so, because it sounds like you're 98% where you need to be in that last little bit. Carnivore is incredibly powerful. I strongly believe it. I'm a huge advocate for it, as all you guys know. But it may not be everything you need to do. So again, it could be like, not being sedentary. Dialing in their circadian biology. We're not nocturnal animals. We're daylight, night cycle creatures, so we have to dial that in. Incidentally, just if you go to the allopathic medicine, one of the therapies for psoriasis, as you probably know, has to do with light therapy. So we do know that light and sunlight and light impacts our skin. So I would, just see if you can relate a stressful event. And a stressful event can be like something that upsets you, but it can also be some sort of environmental event. It could be lack of sleep. It could be, a little cold or something like that. So those things all play a role in there. It doesn't sound like you need to do much different from your diet. There's a point when you can only go so zero carb. You can only carnivore so hard, and then you got to look at some of these other triggers. So I really think it may not be related to diet anymore at this point. Again, that's just a guess. I don't know enough about you to definitively say that.
Well, if I don't get any more out of it, I'm happy.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said about the intangibles too, like sunshine, like grounding, things that we don't necessarily think about, we can't measure as easily, that I think are really relevant to talk about too, because that does affect our mood, how we feel, how our body reacts to a lot of things as well. So,
quick
yes,
comment on that,
please.
because I think that there's not a lot of information out there in some cases, like skin health, gut health, right? So skin health on the outside goes back to gut health on the inside. So if you're struggling with skin issues and trying to put lotion, and sunlight is great, right? And it hits our skin, but if someone's got something going on with their gut, sometimes they can't process the vitamin D that's coming from the sun, and they're like, but I'm outside every day. Why is my vitamin D so low? Because I run blood work on every client. So skin health, gut health, if anyone's struggling with their skin, that's where to look.
Awesome, thank you. Next question, please.
I think this one might apply to everybody here. Cortisol management. I often hear well, it's either because of your diet or your sleep or whatever it might be, but then I always hear this word, it could be chronic stress. And then I'm like, okay, what are your top 5 tips for chronic stress management so I can lower my cortisol or whatever? Because I just found out my cortisol was too high in the morning. I'm like, oh, I thought it was pretty chill, but maybe I'm not. So what would be a top tip or hack that you all have in mind for helping manage chronic stress or high cortisol or that sort of issue?
Yeah, that's a good question. Why don't we go just down the line really quick, just one quick tip. We'll start with you, Dr. Ovadia.
Sleep would probably be the first thing. Are you getting enough sleep? Is it good quality sleep? And then sometimes we have to be a little bit careful about how we're interpreting all of this testing. There are cortisol in particular, like you can measure it in a ton of different ways. And, just like everything else, because whichever lab you happen to be using says the normal is this range, is that really the normal range or the ideal range? So think about, are you showing signs of high cortisol? Is there some symptom or something that you can point to, or is it just a lab test? Because ultimately, we're not here to make the lab test look good. We're here to make you feel good. And so keep that in mind as well.
Yeah.
I love that. I also want to say the root cause of an adrenal or cortisol problem is often not an adrenal or cortisol problem. So adrenals and cortisol respond to other things that are going on, whether they're external or internal stressors. So if you feel like your external stressors are dialed in and you're doing all the things, again, look deeper inside. Obviously, I'm very passionate about that because sometimes I just hear, oh, it's high cortisol. Oh, I'll, go read a book or meditate or whatever, which is great. Don't get me wrong. All that stuff we have to do, but it's the root cause that you really have to get to.
I would say get off social media and stop watching the news.
100%.
I mean, I don't know. It's going to win for me. Our practice opened a mind-body program only because we needed it. So we had people doing carnivore, we had people doing Lyme disease, SIRS, or mold illness, and there was a subset of people that if we're like, here's your diagnosis, and then some people would be like, yes, I finally have an answer, and then there's another subset that starts crying like, this is my lot in life, life sucks. And what we find is that over time, when the way you perceive the world, if you hear a gunshot and you jump and someone else next to you doesn't jump, the person that jumps is releasing cortisol. And then when your cortisol's high, you are not digesting, you're not in a rest and digest state, you can't heal, your immune system is mostly in your gut. So all of that comes to play. And so I think the biggest thing is social media is very divisive. I know it's entertaining, I know it could give us inspiration, but then the wrong social media can absolutely, it's like the comparison is the thief of joy. So in our practice, our groups, we talk about, just like build real relationships. It's all about the one-on-one, the connections. If you are struggling, get someone to support you. But when you're watching and scrolling like, gosh, everyone else is healing from carnivore, but not me. Gosh, like everyone has beautiful skin or like they're doing these beautiful dances and I don't even know how to dance, right? Like it's just, I think sometimes that it can go the other way. And then there's also studies where it releases way too much dopamine. Yeah. So when you're stressed, instead of actually doing the work that will make your dopamine increase in the right way, you start turning to scroll instead of using a food addiction or a drug addiction. So I just think find the things that you're leaning on that may not be the most beneficial and see if that will help. And then just as Danny was saying, there's also, many environmental lifestyle things can absolutely impact your cortisol. But again, it releases from the brain. The brain guides the rest of the body to release it and then function. And so if your brain is not right, if your perception of the world is not right, which I know the world is chaotic right now, you have to get your mind right.
Real quick on this one, please, just an awareness of everyone's time. Thank you.
Not a popular opinion or not well received, but quit drinking coffee. Quit drinking coffee. If any of you think for a moment that bathing your microbiome in caffeine day after day, month after month, year after year is beneficial to your cortisol, think again. And the second one that is pretty popular, get away on more vacations.
Yeah,
go to the beach, watch the ocean, put your feet in the waves.
All right, let me attack it from a little different engine. First of all, cortisol, if we didn't have cortisol, we'd all be dead. So there's actually some benefit to cortisol, and even higher levels can be shown to have confer some benefits. But I think, obviously you can make your life really boring, which that's fine. Get lots of sleep, which I certainly agree with. You can develop stress resilience. There's things you can do where you can control that. You have stress which you have control over. Cold shower, or some sort of exercise, some sort of hormetic stress that you have control over the duration and the intensity and the amount. You can develop tolerance to these things. So when these unexpected stresses come up, your body has the ability to adapt to that. So it's basically desensitizing yourself to stress in a way. That's probably a good strategy, in my view. Obviously, all the rest of advice is fine as well. But I think that's just make yourself stress resistant in a way.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Awesome. Next question, please.
My question is about getting strategies for dealing with my food addiction. I've been keto and low carb for 2.5 years, and in the last year, my food addiction has started showing up again. And I'm struggling, so it's like, do you do it really clean, or do you cheat, or what? But it's not working for me anymore, so.
It's a really good question. I think many people struggle with that. Lisa, I've heard you speak with a couple people about this.
Yeah, I'll take this one first. It's really important to understand how extremely powerful the addiction is and how extremely powerful the drug of sugar and processed food really are. And with any drug, abstinence is the only answer. I've never had anybody be able to moderate half a cupcake or one bite of cheesecake. It just is not, it's not a reality. No. And so, yeah, have a funeral for your friend, draw the line in the sand and say, I'm either going to be active in my drug and keep lapsing back into it, which I call falling in, into the carb ditch, or you make the decision that once and for all, I cannot touch it. No different than an alcoholic or a heroin addict. You can't dabble in it on the weekend and expect to just come right back out of it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I struggled with an eating disorder. I'm very open about it for a decade plus. I struggle with anorexia, bulimia, like you name it, I was in it. What I would say is I went full hardcore carnivore and I ate fat and I had a big why because I had my son taken away from me. So there was a big why behind it. But after time had passed, what I learned is that I think there's like two parts of the addiction. There's the physical, your body needs the nutrients, and if you're not feeding yourself enough, your body's gonna scream for whatever food you will go after. So if it's the sugar laced with seed oils, but that's what's gonna get you the fat in, it's going to have you crave it so that your body is uncontrollably needing it. So if you fuel the body enough, you still have to deal with the mind side of it. So it's like, in our Mind Body program, we talk about addiction because the thing is, addiction doesn't come from nowhere. So what I found, and I'll talk about my journey, but what I found is I turned to food every time I couldn't stand up for myself. I had no boundaries. When life got stressful, it's like, okay, I'll just drown myself and use the food as an escape. So it wasn't just about being thin. It was a tool to cope. So if you are physically eating enough, I would strongly consider what's the mental side of it. Have you noticed like you want to binge or you want to eat or you have those other cravings because a life stressor happened or something happened that you didn't stand up for yourself or you didn't have that boundary? It's really hard. And it's just figuring out, this is like the hard work, right? You can physically nourish your body, but the mind part, the part where you even turn to food as an addiction, that's the part where you have to dig deeper of like, is it a core wound? Is it because something happened in childhood that, the dentist always gives you candy. Everywhere we go, we are nourished with food and obviously the wrong foods. So figure out, why am I turning to food? Because there's always an answer there. It's not easy, but that was the biggest thing that I had to get over in order for me to heal truly. Like I have not binged, purged in over 5 years, and never once do I think of purging. And it used to be a daily, if not multiple daily occurrence for me. So I know I went through it and I'm able to heal and I'm in remission and I know that everyone can do it because I could.
Thank you. Yeah, let's just make it quick, John.
Yeah, just one issue around food addiction. Obviously abstinence, that's ideal. Make your house as supportive as possible. If you've got junk in the house, you're going to find it and eat it. That's inevitable. I think one thing to realize is when we talk about cravings, cravings are going to come at some point. It could be day 12, it could be day 253, doesn't really matter. You'll have cravings, and we have to realize what's driving cravings. In many cases, it's just a hormonal fluctuation. Ghrelin in particular, for most people, it peaks around 8 p.m. That's like, you're hungry, you're looking for something. You'll find that piece of chocolate in the back of the pantry if it's there, and then that sets off that cascade. And so if we know that many cravings are hormonally based, we've all experienced that we were hungry at night looking for something to eat. There's nothing to eat, so we went to bed. We wake up the next morning and we're not hungry. Well, it's like 10 hours later and we're not hungry. Why is that? Well, because the hormone levels have changed. So if we know that those hormones are only going to be active, and they're active for about 30 to 45 minutes typically, if you can figure out what I can do for 30 to 45 minutes, and I tell people, if you don't have a plan, failure to plan is essentially planning to fail. So plan A, what can I do for 45 minutes? Can I go for a walk? Can I do some exercise? Can I call somebody? Having, appropriate snacks that are whatever appropriate for you. Gut distension works, believe it or not. You just chug a bunch of water or liquid, it stretches your gut out enough to where it calms that satiety. And there's studies that actually show that works for 30 to 45 minutes, which is often enough to get you through those craving periods. So a lot of times it's just dealing with it one craving at a time and having plan A, plan B, plan C, tape it on the fridge, put it on the cabinets. So you just got to have something in place that'll help you to be successful. You got to stack the deck in your favor, because society wants to stack the deck in the favor of these recreational drugs we call processed foods, right? So you got to give yourself everything you can to win that battle, and it's every day. I mean, I've been doing this for 8 years, and yeah, I mean, I still from time to time I'm like, I got to deal with it, and it's never going to go away completely in my view, but you can be successful more often than not, and it's about every day, one struggle at a time, one day at a time.
Thank you. Yeah, I will say something that really helped me is understanding dopamine. Understanding how dopamine plays into things. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you for those strategies.
Thank you. All right, guys, we're down to our last 8 minutes or so. I want to move forward with the next few questions as quickly as we can. Please go ahead.
Hi, everybody. In 2017, I was diagnosed with severe Crohn's colitis, and in 2019, I stopped taking my medications, came out of the severe flare-up that left me bedridden. I weighed 90 pounds with just a high-fat carnivore diet. I've been in remission ever since, but I'm still sensitive to high histamine meats, so I stick to lamb and bison mostly. What are some things I can do to address that and start incorporating other meats into my diet?
I feel this might be a Sean question again.
Judy might have some good information on this. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what you want to do as far as like, are you desiring, because, like you said lamb and bison, there's nothing wrong with those. I mean, bison and beef are very similar. Lamb is a wonderfully great, in many ways, lamb, I hate to say this, but lamb might even be better than beef as a standalone food. So there's no reason you couldn't do that other than the desire for some variety. And so, as far as, I would obviously, the question would, have you tried to reintroduce small amounts? What happens with that? Obviously with histamine, age of the meat is important, the types of the meat. Obviously, dry aged meat is not your friend. Fresh ground beef as opposed to, other ground beef. You might talk to certain processing facilities. The average hanging time for most beef in the country is around 2 weeks. For most processors, you can get custom places where they'll hang it shorter, so it'll be fresher. So that's an option to sort of mitigate some of the histamine that may be associated with those meats. I mean, there's effluent supplements. There's DAO type supplements which could potentially help with this, but. There's nothing wrong. I mean, technically, you're not. I don't think you're missing out on anything on a bison lamb diet that wouldn't get you. I mean, obviously, you're healthier. You put your disease more or less in remission. So, I mean, that's how I would look at it initially. I mean, I don't know what you've tried. I mean, this is just, I guess, speculative on my part.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add to it real quick?
Yeah, we have time for maybe one or two more, so let's go ahead.
So histamines is one type of immune mediator. There's a bunch that your body releases, so I would figure out what the histamine response is to. If your Crohn's colitis, well, obviously, it's not an autoimmune, but it releases immune inflammatory responses, and it's just figuring out what's the root cause of that, and then figuring out what's the cause that your body is releasing excess histamines or can't tolerate the level of histamines that are coming out. Often it's gut related, but it can be many other things, but it's an immune response. So it could be your environment, it could be your stressors in your body, it's the way you can perceive the world. All of those things can take into play. So besides just eating the meat, obviously you can consider some of the histamine, the DAO supplements, as Dr. Baker mentioned, but you want to get to the root cause of like, why can you only stay on the unaged meats? Because you should be able to eat more, especially if you're eating it long term, and figure out that root cause.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll probably have our last question or second to last question, please. Thank you.
I'll make it quick. Thank you.
Thank you.
Prior to starting Carnivore, I did a lot of barbell training. After starting Carnivore, not even my heaviest barbell workout would absolutely wipe me out for basically the rest of the day. What am I doing wrong?
Says to me. Well, I don't. Again, I don't know. I mean, I think how long have you? I guess the question would be how long have you been doing the diet? Would be one question.
About 5 months.
5 months. Yeah. I think the general consensus, and this goes back to Lisa's, the people that have been doing this for a long time, found that, for the average person, you're looking at, 3 to 8 weeks of a transition period for most people just to physiologically adapt to fat adaptation, ketosis, whatever you want to call it, gut microbiome changes, enzyme upregulation, and so on and so forth. But what I've seen with athletes in particular, and I work with a lot of world-class athletes on this diet, it can take a long time to adjust to athletic type endeavors, whether it's weight training or running marathons or whatever you like to do. It might take 6 months, it might take a year, because as an athlete, the fuel we do best on is what we are chronically adapted to, and most of us have spent 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years adapted to using carbohydrates for performance. And it takes a long time, and sometimes you just got to suck it up and force your body to adapt. And you may have some crappy workouts for a while. I mean, when I first went carnivore, I didn't tank too bad, but I certainly wasn't making progress. And at about the 6-month point, I just started blossoming. It was just like my body finally realized that this is your fuel, get efficient at utilizing it. So it made us be a matter of pressing on and going, just getting it, forcing your body to adapt to it. I don't, again, without knowing exactly what you're doing training-wise, I could speak to the more efficient practices for that. But I think it's really, it could be under eating. I mean, that's also a thing. It could be, under hydration. Those are all things. There's strategies around, like performance, and athletic performance is based on blood glucose in many cases. We know it's not so much muscle glycogen, but it's blood glucose. When our blood glucose is low, we tend to tank a little bit. So there could be strategic ways to eat your protein. Protein, unlike carbohydrates will spike our glucose within about 30 to 45 minutes, where protein might take 3 or 4 hours. So a strategy might be eat a big old steak 3 or 4 hours before you train. You'll probably have the peak glucose you're going to get from that is going to be at that time frame, depending on how much fat. If it's really fatty, it might even be longer. It might be 6 hours. So look at those things, but it might just be not enough time to adapt.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, thank you. So I wanted to wrap this up with something that I think would just be beneficial for all of us to keep in mind. We're all trying to move forward and progress and become better versions of ourselves. So there's been a lot of great information here from a lot of different perspectives. What I think would be cool is if we just went down the line and made it kind of fun, and maybe in 2 sentences or less, what recommendations would you give for somebody who is troubleshooting and to keep the motivation up and to keep them going from all the people that you've worked with? Has there something that you've seen that just can really help everybody keep going?
Yeah, I think for me it really comes down to there is no one right answer, and you just got to keep iterating and trying the different things. And when you're dealing with chronic medical conditions, especially that have been present for a long period of time, it's not going to get better overnight, but it will get better, and you just keep working at it.
I work with a lot of women over 40 in both my groups and one-on-one practice, and I would say that a lot of women come to me very frustrated because they've, I'll air quote, tried carnivore and it doesn't work. So there are a lot of iterations of carnivore and they all work, but we have to find the right version of it for ourselves, and it doesn't mean that they're all wrong. So consistency is key, not flipping from one to another within a week and trying 5 different things in a week. Obviously, if something doesn't work and you feel terrible in a day, you don't want to continue that. But consistency and keep going, and there's help if you need it.
I think finding the right community or your like-minded community is really important. When you're struggling, if you're struggling to find light, find somebody that can give that light to you, and then you can do the same for them when they're struggling. And just knowing that you could keep going. So just have that hope that there is truly no diet that has the most nutrient density per bite. And knowing that then maybe it's beyond the diet, maybe it's working on relationships, maybe it's just working on other levers, but don't give up and know that there's always hope. We see incredible healing stories that they didn't heal initially, but you have to find the right community that will support you through it instead of going, see, told you that diet's wrong. So it's just figuring that out and just don't lose hope.
Yeah, I total agreement with finding your tribe, support, accountability, people who get it, people who are striving for optimal health like you. And also remember, for most 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of treating our bodies like a trash can, we can't reverse this some people say, well, I've been doing it for 6 months. Okay, well, you're 60. That's 60 years compared to 6 months. Be patient. Just keep understanding that our bodies are here to evolve and are healing, and it's not happening quickly. It's not a quick fix scheme here.
Yeah, I mean, what everybody else said, but I think one thing I would add to that is, there's this concept of empowerment and disempowerment, and what we see, the sort of the healthcare environment is very disempowering. You got a chronic disease, we don't know why it's there, take this drug for the rest of your life. That's very disempowering and depressing. Realize that you have the tremendous capacity. I talk about the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept what I can't change. But you have to accept that you can actually change a lot. Accept that you have the power within you to make those changes, and then identify that way. Just say, look, I'm not a sick person anymore. I mean, just you switch over in your mind, whether you're still physically sick. If your mind says, I'm not accepting this role anymore, you'll figure it out, and you just kind of almost obsessively figure out what works for you. And yes, you can get help. There's all kinds of people out there that may be able to fix something that you haven't thought of. Sometimes it's a real easy fix, but don't give up. Keep the power inside of you. Remember, you have the most skin in the game when it comes to your own health, and that's what you got to realize. I don't care who your doctor is, how nice they are. I've been a doctor my whole life. I got 15 minutes with you. You got your whole life, so you got to take it upon your own shoulders and force yourself to accept that you're no longer going to be that sick person, and just it's more than just diet. It's all of it. It's a whole lifestyle. It's sleep. It's exercise. It's activity, and just grind until you get it done.
Amazing. Guys, thank you. We have an amazing community here. I appreciate all of you guys for being here, and let's give a round of applause for our guests, our panelists.